What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Chicken Scratch Gospel. I am your host, Matt, along with me, my co-host, Daniel, coming to you from Midtown Studios, downtown Bakersfield. What's up, Daniel?
What up, bro? Hey, man, I need to get some stickers, man. I look at your laptop every time we do this, and I'm like, this dude got a lot of cool stickers.
I have so many stickers on my laptop,
man.
bro. I need one more.
One more.
Maybe a couple more. I don't know. I have some in here too that nobody ever sees. I have Creed from The Office, and then like a trippy Chewbacca sticker. But yeah,
yeah,
man. You need to get you some stickers, bro.
I'm gonna do that.
At least get a Chicken Scratch Gospel sticker. Represent somewhere, man. Let's go. Get something on there.
Go.
Well, listen, we're talking about this something today that I find interesting, and maybe even I don't want to say standoffish, but I like stuff that is a little bit like that. You know, for those of you out there that know the Enneagrams, I am an Enneagram 8, and so I do look at challenges as such, or I'll sometimes even create challenges. But anyway, today's episode is called Take It or Leave It.
Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it. Coming to you straight from Matthew 7, verses 7 through 11. This is Jesus talking, and Jesus says, "Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you'll find. Knock and the door will be open to you. For everyone who asks receives." Really think about that. You're listening, you're watching. Everyone who asks receives. Everyone. The one who seeks finds. And to the one who knocks, the door will be open. And then Jesus goes on, "Which of you, if your sons ask for bread, would give him a stone? Or if he asked for a fish, would give him a snake? If you then, though you are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father in heaven give good gifts to those who ask him?" I have said it before, I'll say it again. We are wanderers by nature. We are takers from birth. But the God that we serve is not a taker. But we sometimes label him like that, don't we?
Yeah.
We sometimes label him as the taker. But God isn't a taker. He's a giver who meets our needs. He stores up his provisions for us in heaven. It's pretty clear here that all we need to do is ask. Posture matters here. Why are we asking? Or maybe why don't we ask?
Yeah.
That's the question that comes to mind, when I look at this. And I came to this conclusion that sounds a little standoffish, but I think that it's very true in a lot of ways. And here's the conclusion. We have not because we ask not, is what the Bible says. I put to you today that we ask not because we want not. So we have not because we ask not. We ask not because we want not. And we want not because we care not.
That's good.
Is that really what it is? Is it that we don't care enough to want to ask, to receive the things that God has for us? Talk to me, brother. What do you think?
Man, first of all, I look at this verse and I think of family, because it says for everyone who asks. We talk about everyone, but then Jesus goes on to say, if your son, asks for bread, and then at the end there he says, how much more will your Father give good gifts to those who ask him? He's talking about giving good gifts to his children.
Yep.
And so my mind automatically goes to this is a family affair right here. This is family right here. We are children of God. We are children of God, and the Father's giving good gifts to his children. And so we're both fathers here, so we know, hey, when our kids ask for something, of course we don't give them everything that they want, but hey, we want to give them everything that they need. We want to provide for everything they need. And we do want to love them, by the gifts that we offer them. We want to make sure that they're taken care of. And the Father is that much more. And so, I feel like we don't ask because, we either don't care, or do we know, or do we know how much of a part of the family we are? Do we believe that we're part of God's family? Do we really, really believe that?
Yeah.
To trust him, to say, Lord, this is what I want. Okay, ask. All you have to do is ask. If you don't ask, you don't receive, we really believe that we are his sons and daughters to ask and trust,
Yeah, I love that you bring that up too, because there's that old adage of, and now it's like, now it's put on, it's put on memes and things like that and shared around by pastors everywhere, but of the perspective of what kind of father you think God is. And that's that when you get in trouble, you view God one of two ways. You're like, oh my God, I hope my dad doesn't find out.
Yeah.
Or, oh my God, I'm in trouble, I better call my dad.
Yeah.
It's one of those two perspectives that you have of God. Hopefully it's the latter and not the former.
Right.
Because God is, again, not some angry ogre in the sky looking to, hurl plagues at you when you mess up. I don't care how much Exodus you read, that he's not up there just waiting to just birth frogs in your living room because you messed up or whatever. That's not what he's about. He's about providing for you that which you need. And I also love that you said, again, being fathers, you're absolutely right. I don't give my children everything that they want. I absolutely do my best to ensure that they have everything that they need. And sometimes my kids want to have an attitude with me when they don't get everything that they want. But what I think they fail to understand is, if I were to give them everything that they wanted, they would probably turn into little jerks, first of all. but also there's this character that I think we as parents are trying to develop and build within our children. That's why they have chores, or that's why they do, that's why we allow them to figure certain things out. And how much better of a parent is God than us? Yeah. So I love that you take it to, you look at it as you look at it in the Mary J. Blige Family Affair way. Yeah. Whereas I looked at that like, asking will be given to you, seeking you shall find. But why aren't we asking? Or why aren't we, and yeah, maybe it's because you don't view God that way. Maybe you don't think you're a part of the family. Why wouldn't anybody feel like they were a part? If you're serving God, if you receive Jesus in your heart, why wouldn't we operate like that? Or why wouldn't we feel that way? Yeah.
But why? Yeah. But I love that, because why don't we? And this actually just happened to us last week or so, where we kind of limited ourselves in what we asked for. Yeah. And God's like, why are you doing that? Because I'm the more than enough God. You know?
Yeah, that was crazy.
That was crazy.
I think, and the way that we'll share the story, right? So we are, for those of you that don't know, Daniel and I, we're starting a church. We're going to be starting a church here, launching in the fall of 2021. It's called The Vine. You could follow it on Instagram if you want to, @InTheVine. But there's a process to starting a church. It takes time. It takes lots of effort. And you have to build a team, and also it also takes money. All these kinds of things. Never mind like the business aspect of it and setting up articles of incorporation, 501c3, blah blah blah. As we're kind of figuring all this stuff out, we don't have any money, so we're taking that free till we can afford that new. And we were talking about, man, you know what? If we could just get a snake, that would really change the dynamic. And we're like, we're begging.
What's the snake for our listeners? Because this is not like some crazy church that has a real snake.
Right. This is not like if your child asks for a fish and they give you a snake. That's not the same kind of snake. It's an electronic device for those that are in sound worship or production. So it's like it's a thing that you plug into. Yeah. It's essentially, it extends your soundboard. It puts your soundboard on the stage to where your soundboard can be in the back, and you can, run it 100 feet, 150 feet, 200 feet, whatever, however long that is. And yeah, it's not something that you bash on the head or that you step on with your heel. You bruise the head of the serpent, not that same kind of thing. Anyway, we were thinking if we could get these certain things for production, there we go, that, man, it would really change the dynamic of our worship gatherings right now. And no sooner than we said that weekend we got a phone call from a pastor who her husband had passed away a few months back, and she was looking to sell, like, I don't know, man, $6,000 worth of equipment, like just a ton of equipment. And nobody was, she didn't know anybody who to sell it to. And so she finally said, I want to bless somebody with this. I want to donate this to somebody. And so Daniel gets the call from a mutual friend of ours, like, hey, could you guys use XYZ? And we're like, well, yeah, we want to go see it. And it's not just one snake. It's two snakes. It's not just a soundboard, which we desperately needed. It's two soundboards. It's wireless microphones. It's just thousands and thousands of dollars worth of equipment, and to the point to where we had to call somebody with a truck to come over to help us to load it up in their truck, to take it somewhere, to get it to where we could kind of assess what we were just blessed with. The woman even blessed me with her husband's library, years and years of books that he's read and that he's ministered through. And she's like, I want you to take it. I want you to have it. And we said yes to we were like, sure. And she just freely gave it away. It was so beautiful of a moment. And then they prayed with us, prayed over the church. And it was such a cool moment. But I'll be honest with you, Daniel, that this last week, as I was praying, I really felt God kind of check me in that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And God was almost checking me and pointing me to this space, because I really wanted to keep a posture of, God, whatever you want to do, just do it. I don't want to ask for more than what you want to do. I'm not trying to ask for anything, really.
Yeah.
I just want to do whatever you want to do. And I felt checked by the Spirit, and I felt God say, you need to believe me for more. Mm-hmm. You need to start asking for more. You need to start believing for more.
Yeah.
Because I was believing for just enough, or maybe I was just asking for just enough. And God was like, I'm the God that'll get you too. I'm the God that when you ask for something that costs $200, I'll get you $6,000 worth of equipment. Like, I'm that kind of God, and you need to start. You need to shift your perspective, son.
Yeah.
And maybe I had gotten to a place where I just saw myself as maybe a worker for God, and not a child of God.
Yeah. I'm the same way. I had to check myself. I actually, before we went out and got that equipment, and even before the text, I was actually thinking to myself, I'm going to put some money aside, and I'm going to just go ahead and buy a snake. Like, I'm just going to buy one for the church, and because we need it so bad right now.
Right.
And so I had been thinking, and even like soundboard and stuff like that. And when this happened, I almost felt like God say, why didn't you just ask? You know, like
Right.
you're just like, you're thinking of ways for you to buy it, or like, why didn't you just ask? You know, like I've had somebody, you know, and it's so, I love that we're talking about this, because God knows how to take care of his children.
Yeah.
You know, he knows the needs, he knows the timing, and yeah, like we can't have it all in when we want it,
Right.
but God knows the right time. And that's even with my kids. Like, I'm like, okay, that's not good for you right now, but I want to get that for you. I want you to, and so let's plan on like for example, phone, right? Everybody has different rules when
Rules
it's like
about
when do you get your kids a phone, and so like right now my youngest, I'm like, no, it's not, like you can barely take care of certain things.
Right.
You can barely, like, you're not responsible for having a phone, but I want you to have one because you need one, like you need to and so I'm like, okay, when he turns this age, he's gonna get a nice phone. But it's not until, because he's gonna need, and it's like God's just like, okay, when you guys are here, then I'll provide for that. And it's but we just gotta ask, and we gotta believe, and so
it's so good, man. And then it brings me to James chapter 1 verse 17, where the writer says every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of the heavenly lights, who does not change like shifting shadows. He's always going to be there. He's always going to be ready. Every good gift comes from the giver in heaven, which is God. Why are the happiest people on the planet givers and not takers? I know a lot of takers.
Yeah.
I do. I know a lot of takers, and not one of them is happy. Not one of them is pleased. Not one of them is, comfortable or willing to say, I'm good with what I have.
Yeah.
I also know a lot of givers, and they're just different. Why are the happiest people on the planet givers? I'm serious. Like, if you're out there thinking, I want to know. Why don't you, I'll tell you what, when you see this episode go up, shoot us a message. Shoot us a message on social media. Why do you think the happiest people on the planet are givers? Because I want to know what everybody's thinking.
Yeah.
I'm convinced the reason is because it's when we most exemplify Jesus. That's when you look like Jesus the most. That's when you reflect God the most, is when you're a giver, when we give, right? Jesus, by example, he was a giver who also loved the ultimate giver, who was God the Father, more than any gift he received. But that's why I think. But what do you think, Yeah.
I you know what, man? I think when you give, you take the focus off yourself. And I think self-centered people and selfish people, and if it's all about me, and my life and what I want and what I'm doing, and then there's this focus on self, you're never really satisfied with yourself anyways. You're almost kind of like you put your hope in yourself and
That's
you
good.
let yourself down each time. But I think when you take the focus off of yourself and you realize that there's other people that are in need, that need compassion, that need love, that need the giftings, then something supernatural happens in that moment when you begin to take the focus off yourself. There's like a power in that, that brings, wholeness to your heart and to your spirit. And it just goes deep beyond what we can even, understand sometimes. But something special happens when you give to somebody else, or to your neighbor, whatever it is. There's just this power. It's something that takes place within you,
Yeah, I love that. Andy, you look like you wanted to jump in, bro. You need to jump in anytime.
To answer your question, I think most of the time that we give and it, we're happy about it, and the joy comes in that. I think about back when Jesus said, "Whatever you did for the least of these, you did for me," and I think the fulfillment comes when if we're loving like Jesus, we're also loving people that Jesus loves, and I think fulfillment comes in the joy that we know that one, we please God. We love to do that because we love God. But also, we did what God called us to do, which is to love other people.
Right. Yeah.
That's my take.
That's good. Listen, givers advance the world. You want to make it plain? Givers advance the world. Takers advance only themselves and hold the world back. That's the difference there. I think that the biggest key, I think that we do need to focus on that. So the whole story there is just don't be a taker.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Don't be a taker. There's nothing wrong with receiving. There's a difference between being someone who is willing to posture themselves in humility and receive that which God is providing for them, and somebody who is out looking actively to take things. Don't be a taker. Be a giver. But the whole situation here that I'm looking at when I see this is, as Jesus exemplified, we must get to a point where we love the giver more than the gift. And we love the provider more than the provision. Because it's so easy to chase the hand of God that we cease to pursue the face of God.
Yeah, that's so good.
And there is nothing more beautiful to me than when my child, after having given them something, not only just says thank you and then runs off with the wind, but comes to me and doesn't say thank you to my hand as they're taking something, but comes to me and gives me a hug and shows me that affection and says,
I wish that would happen more often.
Right? In Jesus' name. But we have to get to this place, man, where we stop settling for God's hand. Yeah. And we seek his face.
That's so good, man. That's so good. We're always looking for a move, or we're always looking for the hand of God. I love that. Yeah. And we fail to see the face of God because that's not our focus. But if our focus can become the giver,
Yes.
And what he's done for us, then that changes the game. And I think I love what Andy said, because I think I love what you say, Andy, because there's a story where Jesus is feeding the 5,000, right? And he takes the the fish and the loaves, and he gets his disciples to help him out, and they start distributing the food to the people, and in the process, the food just keeps coming and coming and coming, and the disciples are giving it out, and it's this huge miracle that Jesus performed. But in the process, as they were giving out, they were being transformed, they were being changed, they were a part of a miracle of feeding people through the power and the provision of God. And I think I like what Andy said, because when we're being used, we're a part of it. When we're being used to reach out to somebody, we're actually being used, as the hand of God. Supernaturally, the power's flowing through us to give. And I think that's where the wholeness and the spirit begins to move in us and develop us and fill that place in our hearts that would otherwise be empty when we give. So we're in this process of God doing his best work in us through giving,
Yeah, I love that, man. And, again, for God so loved the world, he gave.
He gave, yeah.
He didn't take from the world, he gave. Mm-hmm. And for those that think, well, he had to because that was, no, listen, it was the plan from the beginning.
Yeah.
From the very beginning. And so I think to take under consideration having not because you ask not, and understanding that there's nothing wrong with recognizing your place as a child of God, and from that posture, receiving those good and perfect gifts that come from him as he continues to provide for your needs as you move forward, but also in return, pursuing his face while reflecting who he is to the world around us, and giving to those that you can give, because you are then being a reflection of your Father. And again, givers advance the world, takers advance themselves. Choose wisely. Yeah. Choose wisely. And speaking of giving, I want to give a recommendation. I'm ready to give a recommendation. And you went first in the last episode, so I'm going to go first this episode.
Yeah, sure.
I got a recommendation for a podcast. I want you to go out. I want you to listen to the Hillsong Creative Podcast. It's a really, really good podcast. I love that they got, they think wild out there. Like they do some crazy, crazy cool stuff. I don't know if anybody's familiar with the different conferences that they put on and things, but even just in their week-to-week stuff, the creative team of Hillsong Church, they decided that they would start a podcast, and it's Hillsong Creative Podcast. Go give it a listen. I listened to it. It's really, really neat. It's got some really, really cool, some cool topics, some different things that maybe you'll just be inspired from it. Hillsong Creative Podcast.
Sweet.
What you got?
Yo, I remember when we started going to Catalyst.
Yeah.
And I think it was 2011, man, 2010. I don't know, around there.
Yeah.
We started going to a leadership conference called Catalyst in Orange County. And amazing leadership conference. And when we started going, the dude who was in charge of it all was Brad Lomenick.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. So he has a podcast called H3 Leadership.
Oh, yes.
And so H3, if you don't know, Brad Lomenick wrote a book called
so good.
H3 Leadership, Humble, Hungry, Hustle. Great book. I recommend the book too. But Brad started this podcast called H3 Leadership. Just great insights on leadership. He's been in the game for years, man. Very successful.
Yeah.
He actually in this book, he actually talks about, some of the leadership flaws he had with ambition and running fast. And so he gives some really good takes on, and insights on being humble, leading in humility, hustling, and being hungry for what God's called you to. So check it out. Really good podcast. H3 Leadership, Brad Lomenick.
H3 Leadership Podcast, Hillsong Creative Podcast. Go get you some stickers for your thermoflask or your computer. That's all the time we got today on Chicken Scratch Gospel. Follow us on social media. Go to YouTube, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications so you can know what's going down, and go love like Jesus. Done.